Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here. It's June 1st, 2018. We're broadcasting out of Elk River, Minnesota, which is probably about 2 hours south of about an hour south of Hinckley and roughly an hour west of Stillwater, an hour east of Kimball, roughly an hour and a half east of Hutchinson. From Little Falls it would take probably about 2 hours. So we're very centrally located, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm proud to be broadcasting from central Minnesota as well. One of our goals here is to make Minnesota great again. Obviously not going to do it by ourselves, but you just put your best foot forward. As an individual in society, all you can do is be a productive member. Not going to be able to build a rocket ship, not going to be able to master teleportation, but you can grow your own food, raise animals that provide food and nourishment and exist symbiotically with the environment. You can be a productive, you can go to some job site and do productive work. You can start your own company, your business, and help out other people. There's just a lot of opportunities to be a productive member in society today, ladies and gentlemen. But to be a productive member, it's important to be healthy. Originally, I was thinking about calling the show Health on Earth, but it appears that that name has been used by actually quite a few individuals. Some old random radio talk show, some chiropractor, probably a bunch of other people too. Fact is, lots of great ideas are developed parallel with each other. I mean, a lot of times great ideas are developed completely oblivious to the other idea. Now, is that to say patent laws are bad and everything? In some sense they are, but you can kind of understand the idea behind a patent law, but for the most part, patents are just, they're usually designed so that large companies can buy up technology and then suppress it. What would be called disruptive technologies. Now, you can easily say the seller of the technology is just as culpable as the companies or corporations buying it with the intention of repressing it. But a lot of people choose to live in a cocoon and they don't realize the dangers and evils within society. So if they think of some great idea that they think will make America great again, and a corporation sells the idea to them that they will permeate the idea through society and bring it to everybody and make America great again, the individual who developed that technology or item or service will probably buy into their chicanery and sell off the idea. Then the idea will be, if it's considered disruptive, it'll get shelved and stored away, and that's pretty much it. Scruffface, for an example, he was under the guise that he was going to have a talk show or a show on MSNBC for 3 years. So after a couple months they canceled it and just didn't let him do anything after that, basically. So he definitely got suckered into that, but he seems to understand what goes on in the world today and knows that generally corporations in power are not, they usually get there through deceptive or coercive means. Just parasitic behavior, more or less, sucking off society as much as possible. Because to have parasites, you need the host first. So you need to build a society, and then the parasite will come. It's like a parasite is not going to exist without a chicken. A chicken is not going to, or a dog is not going to have fleas, or fleas are not going to exist without the dog to have fleas to feed off of. And that's basically corporations didn't exist until individuals built society. So they are basically parasitic in nature. Now, you may think, well, you need a large corporation to build an airplane or a locomotive. Which isn't really necessarily true, because in the 1800s they were building locomotives just in... Robert Barron's probably had a lot of influence on it too. But for the most part, it's just individuals getting together, working together for a greater good. And most humans within them have the motive and the drive to work together in certain endeavors. That doesn't mean you need to work together in everything. I mean, to build a garden, you don't really need to work with anybody to do that. I mean, yeah, it's kind of nice and everything, but I mean, to build a house, it helps to have multiple individuals helping out. Or to build a car. Cars, it may seem surprising, but a car is actually a lot more complex than a house. As a house, you know, you got the foundation, a frame, wiring, windows, floor cover, wall cover, ceiling, all that. It's really not that complex. But a car, it's got the engine, the transmission, the drivetrain, the cooling system, the body, all the electronics within the vehicle. So it's definitely beyond a car on wheels. Now, some people might even consider living in their automobile. Usually people that claim they live in an automobile probably maybe slept in it once or twice and then just say they lived in it because it sounds good. I mean, hell, there was one time when I was living at my parents', probably came home around 4 a.m. and the door was locked, so I just lay down in the back seat till a couple hours later when they woke up, and then I went inside. So I could have easily just said, yeah, I slept in my car when I was coming up on hard times in life, and then I slept in my car. But the reality is, you know, had plenty of money, plenty of opportunities for work. Probably reasonably healthy back then, but maybe not so much. So I mean, the reality is, you know, people, you know, they may sleep in their, you know, it depends on what part of the country you are, because if you go to warm climates, Texas, California, for example, then there is a lot of people that choose to live in campers on the side of the street or by a river or in a park or a parking lot. I don't really understand the whole idea behind it. I mean, it seems that you would just move to a different environment where you can actually be a productive member of society and build your own shelter or buy a shelter somewhere. But I mean, the fact is, yeah, I mean, everyone's a little different. Some are a lot different, and there's different circumstances that lead you to where you are. Your environmental, genetic. I suppose luck has a little bit to do with it as well. I mean, you could be lucky and have good genetics, for example. Or finding a bunch of money isn't really luck, though. Because money without the capacity to be able to achieve it doesn't really mean a whole lot. I mean, if having income is obviously important, like, for example, sponsorships on this show. Which reminds me, ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting not really a professional microphone, but certainly an upgraded one, and hopefully it matches up with the insanely expensive camera. If it doesn't, then we might have some trouble. So probably maybe by next weekend, maybe even later, then we'll be able to upgrade the sound. And who knows what else we can do beyond that. But that's the important thing about having sponsors, ladies and gentlemen, that they can provide us with the opportunities to expand our horizons. And as far as Good Times Balls Deep, I haven't consulted with the host of that show lately, so he's probably doing fine, doing good and everything, but yeah, maybe this weekend I'll touch base with him a little bit, see what's going on. So that being said, we can probably get into some research articles here. So most of this is from naturalnews.com, home of the Health Ranger, who has a show on InfoWars on Sunday afternoon called Counter Thing. Pretty good show. It's about an hour long with commercials. Without commercials, it's about 50 minutes, and it counters thinking, basically. Alright, so one of the articles was titled, Most Commonly Used Vitamin and Mineral Supplement Provides No Harm or Benefit. Which isn't really that shocking. I mean, a lot of vitamins and minerals. Number one, if you're consuming fat-soluble vitamins, you have to make sure you're also consuming fats. So, that's an important thing. The Journal of American College of Cardiology reviewed existing data from 2012 to 2017 and found that multivitamins, namely vitamin D, calcium, and vitamin C, showed no advantage or added risk in the prevention of cardio disease, heart attack, stroke, or premature death. You could easily say, well, you feel better if you take multivitamins, or you lift more weights, or you run faster, etc., etc. The reality is, an official study has to have pretty consistent, clear, cogent metrics to follow, to do comparative analysis to. So that's why they do cardio disease, heart attack, stroke, or premature death. Now, most vitamins and minerals in isolated form, especially fortified ones in cereal, they're probably just going to pool up in your liver and cause it to clog up and just do very bad things. So, I mean, they're not really, when you look at a shelf and you see a bottle with vitamin B, you think, yeah, that's great. It's going to make me great again. The fact is, I mean, if you've had a comprehensive blood test and it says you're low on a certain nutrient, then it's probably a good idea just to find or identify types of food items that have that nutrient in it that's naturally occurring. Because then you know that it'll be in a bioavailable state, so that when you consume it, your body can utilize it for its benefits, rather than just some weird synthetic version in a pill that's probably some gelatin that'll clog your arteries or whatever the case may be. I mean, the fact is, I'm not entirely sold on supplements of any kind or fortified nutrients. And it's also important to eat living. It's not easy to eat living foods because pretty much anything in a can has already been pasteurized and heated up. Eggs you eat at the store, they're all heated up too. And eating raw eggs is a bit risky because, you can get parasites and viruses and all that too. I mean, I tried eating raw eggs for a while, but it just didn't really work out. Maybe if the nests were cleaner or the environment was cleaner, it would have worked out a little bit better, but the reality is, it didn't really work out so good. So that's why I steam them 20 minutes, and it's basically like boiling them, then they're good to go. Another thing that I've been doing too lately is steam a couple eggs one day, then eat maybe 2 of them, and then put 2 of them in the fridge, and then use the egg the next day to mix up with the nacho concoction as the meat source. So that's just another option for consuming eggs or poultry. Not poultry, just eggs. Basically, the more eggs you can eat, probably the better, as long as they're organic, pasture raised, cage free, and come from happy hens that aren't under stress from being put in cages and all that, and behind fences too. So, I mean, it's just nice to grow your own food and know that you have a symbiotic relationship with animals outside and plants outside as well. And hopefully the plants outside will start growing good pretty soon. We did have a monsoon of rain the last couple of days, which provided a wonderful opportunity to pull a lot of weeds and plant all those starter plants that you saw in that cat video. Stick them out in the garden and call it good. So there's probably about 300 plants out there now. Now, when you think about it, so there's 365 days in a year. And in probably 2 days, you'll eat the equivalent of what one broccoli plant can grow. So, 300 plants, that includes peppers and some kale and rutabaga and cauliflower. If you think about it, if you're growing for multiple people, then you probably need 400 broccoli plants. 200 broccoli plants per person per year is probably adequate. Yeah, you're gonna have to freeze a lot of it too, and you can boil it if you want. I mean, some people that I've known wanted to boil it because they saw worms on it and they're afraid of eating worms. But I mean, the reality is, worms are an excellent source of protein. So if you eat the broccoli raw, eating raw broccoli, it's not really something I would do because my teeth are basically all plastic, so I don't want to be chewing on anything too hard. But when you pull broccoli and you put it in the fridge and then you boil it or steam it, steaming it is preferred because if you boil it, then the water-soluble vitamins will get into the water, whereas if you steam it, then they stay in the plant, supposedly. And they're a lot easier to chew if you steam them. Or you can boil them too, and they're easy to chew as well. But yeah, broccoli is easy to clean, or easy to freeze because it's not, it doesn't, I mean, it does contain water. So I mean, after you freeze stuff, just go straight to cooking it and eating it. I mean, if you freeze some broccoli and put it in the fridge and then try to eat it, it's going to be all soggy and disgusting. It's not really something you want to do. Getting back to the vitamin and mineral supplement though, folic acid and B vitamin with folic acid may reduce cardio and stroke. So the suggestion by the researchers and the people that did this study was to take supplements specific to deficiency, or basically just to eat food that provides supplements to those deficiencies in a naturally occurring state. That's probably the best thing you can do, ladies and gentlemen. And going back to the broccoli plants, I mean, if you're serious about growing all your own food, just think in simple terms and don't really try to overwhelm yourself either. Just think, all right, yeah, if I eat broccoli every single day, maybe every other day, and each plant, it creates a crown, and then when you cut the crown off, it creates a bunch of shoots. So if the broccolis are growing on 8 cylinders, which you can't always prepare for, but I mean, one broccoli plant may provide the equivalent of 3 days worth of serving. So I mean, 100 broccoli plants at the minimum is probably what you would need, and 200 is probably about right, and 300 is giving yourself a pretty good safety margin. Now you may think, well, 300 broccoli plants, that's massive. The fact is you can grow them about 12 to 18 inches apart. So if you have a 50 by 50 foot patch, which just about anyone that lives in a reasonably sized yard would have, you could fit 50 in one row, and then you have 50 columns. So that's 2,500 plants that you could theoretically fit. Now, yeah, you're going to want to have walkways and everything. Yeah, you might want to put 2 feet between. So you might plant one foot apart, 1 foot apart, and then have 2 feet in. So you might have 50 in the row and then 25 in the column. So then you would have 1,250 broccoli plants, which is quite a bit. Now, obviously, you don't really need to give yourself a margin for spacing them in a safety margin, because the closer the broccoli plants are together, the easier they can drown out the weeds. And yeah, they might overlap a little bit, but that's not a big deal. They'll figure out where they need to orient their leaves to get the sunlight. That's what they do. They're plants. They're pretty smart. But yeah, I mean, 50 by 50 foot, you could theoretically have 2,500 plants, which is quite a bit. Now out there I got about a 50 by 50 foot, and then there's it's probably another 20 by 20 feet or so. And certainly there's not going to be 2,500 plants out there. I mean, they're spaced together a little bit more because, when I plant them, it's kind of hard to tell where they are, so I don't want to be stepping on them and all that stuff too. But plus, planting 2,000 plants would take a very long time. Planting 300 plants was probably 4 hours or so, which doesn't sound that much over the course of a very long season, but the reality is when you're out there and you're working in the garden, a few hours a day is probably plenty. So yeah, it's kind of nice to spread it out a little bit too. Maybe plant 100 one day, plant 100 another day. And when you do that too, then you don't get impatient and start getting sloppy with the work as well. So I mean, anyone can grow all their own food. It's not that difficult. I mean, if it doesn't rain, then you gotta water it and all that too. But yeah, it's worth it. The old adage goes, what you put into it, you get out of it. Is absolutely true with food, especially growing your own vegetables. I mean, unless you got some weird allergy to whatever is in certain plants, then maybe you don't want to grow them. But for the most part, if you grow your own stuff, you're gonna be great again. And we've come up to a break, ladies and gentlemen. So the host of Good Times, Balls Deep. I'm probably gonna consult with him a little bit this weekend, see what he's been up to lately. Now that I guess it's almost been a week now that he's had his ban from free speech. So yeah, in only about 3 weeks he'll be back again. So hey, there's something to look forward to there. But we'll consult with him this weekend, see what's going on, what his plan is. Maybe Good Time. Maybe there's some further developing news on Good Times, Balls Deep. So yeah, we'll keep in touch with them, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. You're listening to Tex Messages with the Parasite Rick Tex. Glad to have you here. Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here once again. It's about 8:40 something on a Friday evening. Now you may think, normally should probably be at the Princeton Speedway on Friday evening or the Granite City Speedway. Well, the fact is, Princeton Speedway has been regressing significantly, ladies and gentlemen. And I hate to announce it, but here are the facts. Now, I may sound like slightly a curmudgeon, just complaining about how things used to be, etc., etc. But here's how it used to be. Late 2000, 2008, 2010. They had A mods, B mods, street stock, super stock. And then they had Hornets. And the Hornets would run some goofy feature after all the other cars that nobody really cared about. And if somebody wiped out, the wrecker truck would drive on the track during the race and push them out of the wreck. So that's what Hornets were. And the A mods consistently had between 20 and 30 cars, occasionally a consolation feature. B mods would have 30 to 50 cars, always have a consolation feature. Now, fast forward to today. They have a class called Sport Compacts, which is Hornets, and they run heats and features, so you have to see them on the track twice as opposed to just once as a goofy feature at the end of the night. And the car count for Sport Compact is 20 to 30, so there's a lot of them. There's 4 separate races to watch of Sport Hornets, basically. And the A mods, they're not even hitting 10 cars. They have maybe 1 heat race, occasionally 2 heat races, and then a feature, but no consolation feature. B mods, same story. A dozen cars, if that. A lot of times they have a single heat and feature, and sometimes 2 heats and a feature. No way they're going to have a consolation feature, though. So it went from being a good car count of the high-end cars to just a good car count of the garbage cars that nobody wants to watch. Not only garbage cars, but garbage cars that are run as legitimate classes. So it's definitely getting out of control. And for me to actually not go due to entertainment, flawless fallacies or shortcomings, it is slightly monumental because yeah, there have been years where I maybe only went to Princeton Speedway a couple times, but that was due to other life circumstances. For example, when I had a job where I just sit around all day, the last thing I want to do is go to a racetrack and sit around there all night. But, now, last couple of years I haven't had a job like that, so yeah, I'll go to Princeton Speedway and enjoy it. But, see, what's probably going to happen now, based on Princeton spiraling out of control, is, yeah, fan count is down significantly, and you may think, well, you should probably go there and support it and everything. You got to do what you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I'm not going to go there and just sit in the bleachers and watch Hornets drive around the track. Yeah, the $10, no big deal. But sitting there for 3 hours, and that's the thing too. The program length is getting out of control. It's supposed to start at 7. They oftentimes start late. In fact, yeah, I think they started on time last week. But yeah, they often start 15 minutes late or something, 20, half hour even. And then the thing doesn't get over till at least 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock. The first night it got over at 11:30, and the car count wasn't a contributing factor to that. It was just a poorly run program. Now, you'd think a track that's been here for 50, 60 years would have, by now, pretty decent management in place, or just enough people being affiliated with it that it runs good, but that doesn't seem to be happening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the track has been okay the last couple weeks, but, when the feature for A mods is just 8 cars, there isn't a whole lot to watch there. It's sad. It's, yeah, I'm angry, I'm flustered, I'm disgruntled. But the good thing is, Ogilvy Speedway is probably only another 20 minutes, so instead of driving a half hour to get to Princeton on Friday, I can just do 50 minutes to Ogilvy Speedway on Saturday. It looks like it's going to rain tomorrow, however, so probably won't be going there tomorrow. But hopefully in the following weeks, Ogilvy will be the new hangout, ladies and gentlemen. And the biggest downside that I believe has contributed to Princeton Speedway's downfall is IMCA sanctioning. If they had Wissota sanctioning, you would still get a lot of the good drivers from the area that run for Wissota points there. Whereas with IMCA, I mean, nobody really cares about that. So the only people going to Princeton Speedway are just local drivers that don't really feel like running anywhere else. I mean, that's basically what it is, ladies and gentlemen. So here's the thing. So Princeton Speedway used to have a lot of very good nationally recognized drivers there. And what would happen is when there would be a big race going on, a lot of those drivers would go to the big race. Like if there was modified nationals, they would go to that. So then Princeton would just have the local heroes there. And that's Princeton now is just local heroes all year. You never get any of the big name drivers there. Not even mediocre name drivers. It's just local guys now, basically. So the competition has fallen off a lot, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm furious. I'm not happy about it. And it's just something as simple as Wissota sanctioning that could right the ship. I mean, the track is great. It's the best side-by-side action. The cars don't get spread out. The lighting is great. The bleachers are great. It's an excellent location. It's pretty much right in central Minnesota. It's along a busy road, so it's easy to see it. And it's pretty close to the metro area, so a lot of people with money can get there rather quickly. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to get into something a little bit more important, ladies and gentlemen. So, gut bacteria thrives on the food we eat. It also provides nutrients, repels pathogens, and it guides immune responses. Now, what you feed your body, if you're feeding your body stuff that your gut microbiotics doesn't want, eventually they're going to get killed off, and then you'll just be left with the garbage microbiotics that like the garbage food. So then they're not going to provide good nutrients, and they're not going to repel pathogens, and you're going to feel like garbage all the time. Now you may not realize you're feeling like garbage because it's more of like a slow burn or a slow death. So you may go from being able to work a manual labor job for 8 hours a day and then go home and work in a garden for 3 hours a day, or lift weights for 2 hours, to working some half-assed job and not doing anything when you get home. But since it's a slow progression, you think, yeah, maybe this is normal. But the reality is you're probably eating unhealthy and maybe not sleeping right. But what you put in your body pretty much affects everything. I mean, if you're eating healthy, you're going to be able to sleep well too. It's just, everything starts with what you eat, and that starts with the choices you make. Now, if you ate extremely healthy and you just wanted to sit around all day, yeah, you're probably going to feel like garbage as well. I mean, if you just want to sit around all day, you're probably only eating, a couple thousand calories a day at the most, so maybe you'd feel pretty good then. So, microbiotics are established quickly after birth, but they do remain malleable, as I pretty much just alluded to. And what some researchers found is that if you introduce nori seaweed into mice's diets, then it grows the new microbiotics for that, then they can, consume it and become more efficient. So it's possible to engraft one bacteria over another. So think of it this way. If you go from eating healthy to garbage food, yeah, you're going to get diarrhea and possibly vomit and all that. But if you get used to eating garbage food, then eventually you don't have those symptoms as much because all the microbiotics that actually provided health and nutrition for you probably died off, and then there's probably new ones that grew that don't provide any of that, and they can break down the garbage food a little bit better. So that's probably why you don't have symptoms of it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're healthier because you don't have symptoms. It just means that your microbiotics have probably changed or shifted to something else that's not really beneficial to you. So I mean, that's really all there is to that, ladies and gentlemen. So I mean, it is what I've found lately is that it does seem helpful to be consistent with what you eat as long as you're eating healthy food. But at the same time too, it is good to introduce different foods every once in a while to get the added micronutrients. Like if your diet is a little void of vitamin C, then it is a good idea to introduce foods with vitamin C every once in a while. But I mean, you have to be careful about it too, because if you eat some fruit that's laced with pesticides and chemical residues, then you're going to probably get some slight ailment from that. But I mean, if you've eaten mangoes in the past and you always felt great, then yeah, why not slam down a few mangoes here and there. I mean, if you're on the high fat, high protein diet, then once or twice a week you can slam down a mango and call it good. Because, you know, like we said before, vitamin C, it's important for testosterone and whatever other nutrients are inside the fruit or the plants with vitamin C. And that's the thing with broccoli. Broccoli has pretty much every nutrient that's beneficial to mankind, which is why, you know, broccoli and cauliflower, and it doesn't have the sugars in it, which is mostly why I focus a lot on broccoli and cauliflower for growing in the garden. You know, yeah, anybody who's gardening, when they go to the store and they see all these different plants, eggplants, tomatoes, green peppers, jalapenos, red peppers, corn, you know, you want to, yeah, it's good to get a variety and just plant them. But I mean, if you're serious about growing food for yourself, it's a great idea to just focus on one food, try to find out the best kind of soil for it, the best water, the best spacing, and all that goofy stuff. And it's good to do crop rotation too. Like for example, alfalfa puts a lot of nitrogen in the soil and corn depletes it. So you can, you know, like farmers will rotate that kind of junk. But yeah, I mean, gardening is a hobby. Yeah, just get a bunch of variety and do that. But I mean, that doesn't mean you can see. I mean, if you got a massive garden, you fit your couple hundred broccoli plants, then you can squeeze some eggplants and acorn squash here and there. Then yeah, it's a great idea to do that. Sweet potatoes, rutabagas, all that stuff. Then you'll be able to get all the nutrients from them as well. You know, I mean, yeah, they're not going to last all year, but yeah, I mean, hell, if you eat... See, the thing with the liver is it stores vitamins and minerals that you don't necessarily need right now, but you may need them in the future. Like, when I did some research on the liver, because, you know, I found out that vitamin B is absorbed in your small intestines, which I had 75 centimeters of mine removed, so I thought I was vitamin B deficient, but it turns out I wasn't. And I also saw that the liver can store those nutrients for up to 10 years. So if you grow a whole variety of fruits and vegetables, and then you sort of eat it, and by midwinter it's all gone, those nutrients will, you know, those nutrients may be stored in your liver and secrete over time, you know, until next year when you eat them again. So you got to think about it. I mean, whoever created this earth, whatever created this earth, blueberry plants are only providing nourishment for a small portion of the year. So whatever created this body probably had in mind that blueberry plants are only going to be grown a small portion of the year. So that what benefits you get from the blueberries are probably residual for the whole year. So I mean, this is just theoretical or hypotheses right now. I mean, I don't really know that for sure, but it just makes common sense that something like that would happen, you know, as far as the human design and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, having a variety is important, and getting serious about providing for your own food is also important. You know, if you want to be healthy, if you want to be some zombie parasite that eats glyphosates and neonicotinoids all day, then go ahead, you know, knock yourself out. But the path to good health is a long one, a rewarding one, and it's worth it, and you won't be addicted to foods anymore. You know, I mean, I'll talk to a lot of people that, you know, this one gentleman I was talking to today, I mean, he was all into eating the right amount of calories so that he doesn't lose or gain weight, because he wants to stay at his current weight. But every Saturday he'll go splurge on sugars and, you know, dine out and everything like that. He's just talking about researching hamburger joints and eating different kinds of hamburgers, like the Juicy Lucy and, you know, the cowboy burger with 2 patties and onions and all this stuff. So, I mean, yeah, eating was his hobby. Now, Is that right or wrong? See, I cringe a little bit because when eating was my hobby, it was eating just bad foods, and I just felt like garbage all the time. And now I mean, I can just wolf down a whole bunch of good quality foods of tree nuts, cheese, meat, and feel great, have plenty of energy. But I mean, this gentleman here, I mean, he appeared to be a little run down, void of energy, low energy, all that stuff too. But I mean, he still seemed and sounded like a productive member of society. So I mean, who am I to say whether he's right or wrong? But I think what a lot of people see, you think that since you have to eat, being addicted to food is maybe not possible. But the fact is, if eating has become a hobby and the only thing you do with your friends and family is go out and eat, you might have a problem. Now, yeah, when my family comes down here, it's just working outside the whole day, which, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's pretty fun, but other times it could get pretty long and arduous. But I mean, if you have the capacity to work hard, it's what you want to do. I mean, it's just what the human body was made. Human body was not made to sit around all day. And it wasn't made to be a reclusive hermit hiding out in your house as well. But the only way you're going to achieve that is to be healthy, which basically nobody, yeah, I'm interested in you being healthy, but nobody else is really interested in you being healthy except yourself. You may not even realize it, but you really are. And you got to think about, if we lived in a healthy society, how much better everything would be. People would be a lot more pleasant with each other, more quality houses would be built, the roads would be better maintained, there'd be more entertaining, hilarious content on Facebook. Just everything else would be so much better if everybody was healthy. I mean, you'd see more custom cars and choppers on the road. There'd probably be more A-mods at the Princeton Speedway. Yeah, I mean, humans do compete against each other at some levels, but mostly it's frivolous matters. And usually the destructive competition is the sabotage, where if you want to start a business that's competitive against somebody else, they'll just kill you instead. That's probably not the type of competition that builds society. Just positive competition. I mean, I'm not trying to compete against my neighbor to have a better garden or anything like that. It's just, as far as that goes, yeah, I mean, like swimming, for example, you try to swim faster than another person, and you think about what swimming is and how useless it actually is to being a product. I mean, yeah, it's important to get a good cardio workout and everything, and it is fun to put yourself to the test to see what you got, but I mean, to get too into it and start shooting up drugs and blood doping and everything, no, it's getting out of control. And that's basically sort of the sabotage. Like sports, with all the drugs and performance-enhancing drugs, it's sort of sabotaging it for everybody else that wants to just be a healthy person. I mean, when you got, I'm not saying anything bad about NFL players, but probably most of them are hopped up on human growth hormones or some doping of some kind that's not detectable by traditional testing means. So yeah, I mean, most of them are genetically gifted from the start, obviously. I mean, yeah, if I shot up on as many PEDs as I could, probably still wouldn't make the NFL. I mean, they're gifted naturally, and they do all that other weird stuff. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to take a break. Good times, balls deep, will hopefully be occurring in the near future. With that being said, we'll be back in 5 minutes with episode 47. Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the parasite of the show, Richard Tex. We're broadcasting from Elk River. Looks like we got a bit of a cold front moving in. We got rain in the forecast. It's one of the reasons why I stuck all those plants out today, because the ground is still saturated from the days before, which makes it very easy to dig in. And then it's going to be even more saturated once this rain rolls in. And hopefully after the rain, the sun will come out, and then the whole photosynthetic process can work out pretty good. Now when you're doing starter plants, it's important that they get plenty of sunlight. If you have them inside, make sure there's a south-facing window, because those starter plants that I showed you, they just had that little pod in them, and it was pretty difficult. They would get really long and stringy looking for light. So, the first go, I was not really successful. The first 200 plants I had, 3 of them actually grew, and I don't even know what those plants are. I mean, they're all in the garden now, they're growing, they're flourishing pretty well, and we'll find out what they are someday. But yeah, then I tried out 200 more broccoli plants, and it looks like maybe probably half of them were worth transplanting into the garden, and out of those maybe half of them are going to make it to full maturity. So it's you're not going to be 100% successful. I mean, it's not difficult. You just had to follow basic common sense, which I don't always do. I know I harp on it a lot, but it doesn't really always happen. Probably should happen, but unfortunately it doesn't, for whatever the reason. A lack of time, lack of focus, lack of concentration, lack of motivation, lack of dedication. We all fall short of the glory of the Almighty. So, yeah, it's just important to have goals in mind and to be a productive person. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful at everything, but successful people are productive. Doesn't necessarily mean if you're productive, you're successful. See, there's always that to consider. There are no guarantees, I mean, you might get your leg knocked off tomorrow and then hope that you walked around a lot prior to that. Wish you still had your legs and everything. So it's just good to utilize your gifts that you were given and provided with. Now, yeah, if you're a miserable person and don't really like where things are headed, then it's probably just because you're not a healthy person. I mean, it's really that simple. Since last September, I wouldn't be doing this talk show if I was not on a good, healthy diet that jived with me. See, prior to last September, I'm still addicted to foods and eating a lot of garbage, soy protein isolate, and just garbage food, highly processed. The food that you think is healthy, but in all reality it's not. And then food that you're taught and cultivated to think is unhealthy is actually healthy. I saw a quick news article today. Meat and dairy, avoiding the consumption of meat and dairy is the surest path to environmental health. And that's 50% of what I eat, so it's not even an option. I mean, what do they want us to eat? Just corn and industrial lubricated soy? It's just ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. We're being bombarded by propaganda, by the poison and toxins in the food, by the educational system that's been corrupted by people with bad intentions, cars that emit pollution, factories that emit pollution, city water that has bleach and fluoride in it that's definitely not good for anybody. Yeah, I mean, the bleach is good to get rid of the bacteria and everything, but it's a slow death instead of a quick death. Not to say either of them is desired over the other, but quick death would result in litigation, slow death not so much, so that's why companies elect to do the slow death, and municipalities with water and everything. So that's why it's important for you to recognize, and I mean, yeah, having your own clean water, it ain't easy. When I have to change RO filters, I see a filter that seems to get blackened a lot and think, is this actually good for me to use this RO filter system? So sometimes when you think you're being healthy, you might actually be doing worse. Because the RO system I got now, yeah, it's 7 stages, it's a big number, it looks good and everything. But these filters, the first stage filter seems to get blackened really quickly. Now, yeah, you could say, oh, it's filtering out all the garbage. But I'm a little bit concerned that it may be getting some type of mold or growing fungus or stuff that it should not be growing on it. So maybe I'll think about getting a new filter. Plus, maybe I'll think about getting a new water filtration system. Plus, it's kind of a hassle to spend $100 a year on filters and then have to change them too. I mean, it'd be nice to get something that's very easy to change. A gravity-fed filter that maybe just has 1 or 2 stages, not 30 stages. Because every stage is something you have to change. 3 filters, a remineralizer, the UV light, the RO membrane, and some other charcoal filter. So it does get to be a bit of an undertaking. Now, yeah, you're probably thinking, well, it's just a few hours every 6 months or every year or whatever, which is true. But for something like a water filter, it's something you just want to install and not really have to worry about it too much. Now, yeah, I've said it before, when you weed, it's like weightlifting. You got to do it not every single day, but it's something that you just consistently have to do until your final breath or whatever. So, a water filter, so if you do install a filtration system, just don't make the mistake I made and put it in a really difficult spot to change filters. Put it in a spot where the filters are easily accessible, because then it's going to be easier to screw on the plastic fittings that are inevitably probably going to strip and leak at some point. And it's just more pleasant than when you can do it that way. And you won't get a mess on everything and spill the water that are in the filter housings when you try to change them off. So, yeah, there's short-term considerations and long-term considerations. And yeah, maybe you don't even need any type of water filters. Maybe you can just drink it straight out of the well and it'll be good. So I haven't really tried that yet. I think I might experiment with that a little bit, but it is risky to drink water that could possibly be contaminated. But you can get these water test deals from Fleet Farm, and it'll test for any garbage in your water. See, when I got my RO filter, the only water testing I was aware of was a $70 water test at some local place in Elk River here. So I was thinking, alright, I'll just spend the $300 and get all the fancy filter stuff, because either I'm going to need it or I'm not going to need it. If it's going to cost me $70 to figure out if I'm going to need it, I'll just spend the $70 to get the high quality filter system. But the fact is, you can go to Fleet Farm and for $20 you can get some comprehensive test kit that will pretty much tell you everything you need to know. And then, yeah, you can also drink the water too. If you feel sick or if you get diarrhea, if you vomit, then it's probably not safe to drink. And it is important to have a good water softener too that softens the water. That's pretty key. Something I didn't really look. See, I make a lot of mistakes, ladies and gentlemen. The fact is, if you do a lot of things in your life, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And maybe 6 months ago I was harping on how awesome RO filters were, and now I'm saying that you need to be more cautious when you're buying the system. You need to have a good place to install it to ensure that filters are easy to clean and change and everything. But yeah, it's a live and learn type deal. You learn things as you move on in life. If you don't do anything, you're not going to make any mistakes, and you're not going to learn anything. If you do a lot of stuff, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You might make a lot of people mad on the way, and you're going to learn things. That's just the nature of living. This old job I had, I had one task and then I could work elsewhere. It was called high voltage wiring. So I went ahead and I did high voltage wiring, and yeah, sometimes when I get to final inspection, they'd see a mistake and then somebody had to correct it. So then one day a gentleman was saying, oh yeah, I spent all morning fixing your mistakes from the day before, whatever. And it's like, well, I guess I don't really need to help out over here if you would prefer that. It's just like, it's mostly for me because I don't want to be just sitting at work twiddling my thumbs, but, it's just weird that he would complain about something like that. But I mean, hey, it's, when you're at work, you just want to focus on the task at hand. And see, a while back I worked on an assembly line, and somebody would ask me, well, who's the weakest link? And I would say the weakest link is the person not willing to help out anybody else that may have fallen behind, because the reality is, if you're on an assembly line, you're one big machine with everybody there. If you happen to have a job that's easier and more efficient than somebody else, there's absolutely no reason why you can't lift up or lend a helping hand if somebody else is falling behind, because their job may be more difficult. Maybe they ate some unhealthy food the night before or the morning of. There's all kinds of circumstances that play into life, ladies and gentlemen. And when you help out others, it'll come back to you. But that's sort of a selfish way to think of it. Eventually you got to get to the point where you just selflessly help out others, and you can't expect it to come back to you, because maybe it won't. But you just know that it's the right thing to do. If you're living your life knowing you're doing the right thing, it doesn't really matter what happens. Everything feels like it's going to work out. I mean, yeah, a meteorite might knock in your house, and then you got to fix the roof now. But since you've done a lot of things in your life, you know how to fix the roof, so it's not a big deal. You just move on with your life then, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like we've come to the conclusion of the show. Hopefully we're going to have good times, balls deep in the future. Glad to have you here once again. And we'll probably have a little mini marathon this weekend. Originally I run shows on Thursday evening, but had a bit of a change of plans, so that's why we're here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be here tomorrow and Sunday. So until then, you're listening to Tex Messages, episode 47. I'm the parasite, Rick Tex. Thank you for listening.